Why do prices in solar-heavy power markets crash at lunch and spike at dinner? One idea explains it all: the duck curve. It shows how solar build-outs push net load to record lows at midday, only for it to soar again in the evening when the sun disappears. In this lesson, I will show you exactly how the duck curve works, step by step inside two interactive Excel models. We will walk through a 25-year evolution of the duck curve, starting from a fossil-only grid and gradually layering in solar and later wind to see exactly how net load and power prices reshape over time. But seeing the curve alone isn't enough. The real insight comes when you link it back to dispatch. So after we explore how solar bends net load, we will jump into a second model, the grid dispatch console, where solar and wind have been added directly into the merit order. There, you will see prices form in real time as renewables push conventional plants to the right, collapse midday pricing, and hand the price back to gas peakers once the sun goes down. If you would like to follow along, click the link in the video description below, hit free preview on the course page, and after creating your free account, you can download the two Excel models for free and explore them yourself. If you haven't already, open the Excel files you just downloaded for this lesson. You will be able to control solar and wind penetration levels yourself and see how net load and prices shift in real time as we explore both models. Here's the one definition we need. Net load equals total electricity demand minus solar and wind generation. Start with everything people are using across the grid, total demand. Then subtract what renewables are producing at that moment, solar and wind. What's left is net load, the part that conventional plants still need to supply. Keep this in mind as we switch to the time series view and watch the duck curve form. This line shows total demand across a typical day, the kind of demand profile we modeled in the last lesson. Now imagine we add solar to the system. Solar generation rises in the morning, peaks around noon, and falls off in the late afternoon. Once solar is subtracted from demand, net load drops sharply at midday and the belly of the duck starts to appear. Next, we layer in wind. Wind is more variable, but it often contributes during shoulder hours and sometimes at night. If we subtract solar and wind from total demand, what's left is net load. This is the load that must still be served by dispatchable generators, like gas, coal, hydro, or storage. This is the live duck curve model for a typical 24-hour period. The dark line shows net load, and the dashed line is a simple spot price proxy based on a marginal plant. Right now, all solar and wind build-out switches are turned off, so what you're seeing is the baseline shape of a fossil-dominated grid. Let's start adding solar, one build-out period at a time. With every solar tranche, midday net load sinks lower and the evening ramp becomes steeper. The price proxy reacts the same way, lower at noon, rising quickly toward the evening peak. At full solar build-out, notice the data point at around 1 p.m. The price proxy actually goes slightly negative. That happens because solar is supplying so much energy that the remaining net load is below the minimum output of must-run generators, like nuclear or inflexible thermal units. Since they can't just shut off, the market briefly pays consumers or storage to absorb excess power. Now let's layer in wind. Wind mostly clips the shoulders, the early morning and late night hours, because it isn't tied to sunlight. It can flatten prices outside the solar window, but if wind production drops at sunset, the evening ramp can still be sharp. That's the head of the duck. Now we will jump into the dispatch console, so you can see why prices move that way from a merit order perspective. This is the same system as in our previous lesson, but projected 25 years forward. Solar and wind now supply a large share of energy. Notice how the supply stack has changed. One 4 GW nuclear block has been retired and two higher cost coal units are offline, about 9 GW of firm capacity removed. In their place, the system has 14 GW of solar and 9.7 GW of wind. Emissions are lower and midday energy can be inexpensive, but system flexibility becomes critical. Let's begin with a sunny, windy weekday. Watch the stacked dispatch and the red spot price proxy. Midday, zero marginal renewables displace mid-merit units and prices are low. The evening ramp steepens as solar declines. One implication of the nuclear and coal retirements is a smaller conventional baseload block. With fewer must-run units, there's less firm capacity available when variable supply recedes. Now let's reduce solar to 50%. Think of a partial cloud cover. As a consequence, the midday low in net load lifts, the evening ramp begins earlier, and the price proxy adjusts upward. On average, prices tend to be roughly 20% higher on these imperfect solar days, because more mid-merit generation must run for longer and more expensive peakers kick in during evening hours. Now we set solar generation to 0 for a day, assuming strong overcast conditions. Midday essentially resembles the pre-renewables shape, but without the firm conventional capacity that has been retired. The system relies more heavily on gas and remaining coal, elevating prices across the day and narrowing operational margins. Our second most expensive peaker ensures that system demand is barely met. Now let's restore solar to 100% and reduce wind to 50%. Wind typically supports the shoulders and night hours. With the less wind, prices rise outside the solar window and the evening ramp becomes more demanding. Lastly, let's drop wind to 0, assuming a calm evening. We can observe how the right-hand peak becomes difficult to serve fully. Our demand check flips to fail. In practice, operators would curtail load, meaning industrial customers such as production factories would be asked to pause their production because available firm capacity is insufficient to meet demand. In short, the system exchanged fuel cost for variability, lower midday energy costs, but greater evening scarcity and price volatility, especially after retiring 9 gigawatts of firm capacity without adding flexible resources. During the strongest solar and wind hours in certain energy systems, prices can approach 0 or briefly even turn negative, as must-take energy such as nuclear may exceed net load and just a few hours later, meeting the peak demand can be tight. The missing piece here is flexibility. Battery storage can absorb midday oversupply and release it into the evening peak, flattening net load, stabilizing prices, and helping maintain system reliability. In the next lesson, we will explore how best storage changes dispatch, pricing, and revenue dynamics in a high renewables grid. See you there.